Hello and welcome to the Alt Asset Allocation Podcast. Today's interview is with Ondrej Pilny. Ondrej is the co-founder and CEO of Baserank, which provides crowdsourced, easy-to-understand crypto asset rankings. Cryptocurrencies are confusing and there's a lot of misinformation that exists. Ondrej watches the cryptocurrency markets more closely than many others, and he gives us an update on some exciting new developments in this very fast-moving space. In this conversation, we jump into Bitcoin, Ethereum, and ETH 2.0, cryptocurrency valuations, DeFi, and more. There is a lot going on in the cryptocurrency markets at any point in time, and Ondrej does his best to break down what the important factors are and what's moving the markets. Before you listen, please don't forget to like or subscribe to the podcast, or even better, leave a review. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel and or like the video. I really appreciate this, and it really helps other people find the podcast and the YouTube channel. There is a lot going on in cryptocurrency markets. Please enjoy this overview with Ondrej Pilny. Welcome, Ondrej. Excited to have you on the show today.
Thanks a lot, Ben, for inviting me.
Yeah, this is round two. Last time, both of us had internet issues and all the fun that happens of doing these things remotely, but you're on the other side of the world, and thanks for taking the time today. Excited to have you on.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. Thanks again. Yeah, last time it was mostly my problem on the internet side.
Yeah, I think it was both ways, so it's okay. I'm actually hooked up to the hard Ethernet cable today, so not even. I'm taking Wi-Fi out of the connection, out of the potential issue today. So last time we were talking, it was the height of the DeFi madness summer. But today, this is December 1st, and also another iconic day. Bitcoin hit new all-time highs just recently, all-time highs, which was great. ETH2 is launching. There's still a bunch of craziness happening within DeFi and NFTs. So you live and breathe this stuff all day, every day. So what better person to have on to the podcast to give us an overview of what's happening in the crypto world. So let's before we get into that, let's start off just brief background, who you are, where you are.
Yeah, so my name is Ondrej Pilny. I'm from the Czech Republic, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Baserank. So Baserank is a crypto asset research platform where we aggregate research about crypto assets. So basically what we are doing is that we are trying to find the smartest people in the crypto space, and we try to collect their opinions, their ratings, and reviews of crypto assets. So we collaborate with crypto asset rating agencies, with independent analysts, and with experienced investors, and we collect their fundamental analysis, their reviews of crypto assets to provide our users with one unbiased rating of crypto assets, so they have an easy way to understand the fundamental value or the quality and the quality of crypto assets.
Awesome. Tremendous value proposition. And we'll definitely get into fundamental valuation of crypto, which is a whole nother conversation that I definitely want to go into. But so you said yourself, you're talking to the smartest people in the room that are watching this crypto. So I went to the source behind the source, aggregating all of this great crypto information. So why don't we start off? Just give me an overview of crypto. What's happening right now? What gets you most excited?
I think it's Ethereum too. I think that's the most exciting thing that's happening at the moment, because it's going to allow a lot of projects to kind of really use Ethereum for what it's supposed to be used for. There's going to be a lot of new apps that are going to be built, and a lot of the current decentralized apps, they will have a much better platform to be building on. So it's going to be much more scalable. There is going to be more transactions per second. And so it allows a lot of things to be built on Ethereum. So what was now the first version was just the beginning, was just kind of like the beta version. Now it's the full version, so to say, for people that are not following it that much. So I think Ethereum first version, or the one we had before, was kind of like the beta version, and now we have the full version. So now I think people should be ready for all the killer apps that are coming in the crypto space, and a lot of the applications that people are saying, okay, when is the when are the people coming, or when is the majority of people coming, when is the mainstream coming. So now it is going to be happening, because I think in 2021 it will not be just a year of speculation, but I think it will be also the year of applications, of the Ethereum applications, of the decentralized applications, because now is really the time when people will be able to build what they really wanted to build, and it was not possible due to the technical difficulties to build a lot of things on Ethereum. Now it's going to be possible. Of course, it's going to take some time. It's not going to be immediate. It's a process. It's not like an instant switch. So it's going to be a process of months and years. But I'm really looking forward to exploring the possibilities that Ethereum can bring. And of course, other news, I'm still very bullish on Bitcoin. I'm believing in both Ethereum and Bitcoin. So I'm glad that Bitcoin hit new all-time high today. It's very positive news. But yeah, we'll see where it goes. I think there are a lot more institutional investors who are now interested in Bitcoin and they're buying it. And from my perspective, I think the mainstream people, the mainstream investors, are still not noticing this. So I think it's going to take a couple of weeks or months until we see the mainstream people kind of reacting to it and starting to jump into the bandwagon as well. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, I know nothing about the future. That's all I'm certain about. That's for sure. But my thought is that this Bitcoin acceleration as a store of value and gold alternative, it's almost a self-fulfilling cycle. You know, as the
Mhm.
price jumps up and stays up there, it just perpetuates. So excited to watch that. But actually, for this, I'd like to jump into Ethereum in a little bit more detail. So this is a huge news for the crypto community. A lot of people are really excited about it. So perhaps for my listeners, I mean, Ethereum is somewhat difficult to explain. So when somebody asks you, what is an Ethereum and why is it important? You know, regardless of ETH1 or ETH2, and how do you answer that question?
It's a very good question, difficult to answer. If I would try to explain it to a 5-year-old, I would probably say it's a decentralized world computer to build things on top of that. So it's kind of like a new layer that exists on the internet that allows you to build applications that were not possible to build using the infrastructure that we had. So Ethereum is basically a new infrastructure of the internet that allows businesses and programmers to build new applications that were not possible before. So it's probably the easiest explanation I could come up with. I know it's still a little bit complicated, but I guess that's how I could explain to a 5-year-old.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so difficult, right? Because there's so many
Yeah.
different use cases. It's like a whole new decentralized internet can be built on top of it, and that's what it is. But okay, so there's a lot of different use cases. This thing could be used for a number of different things, but why is this? And you alluded to it a bit on the importance of the shift to ETH2. It allows you more scalable, removes a lot of the technical limitations for a lot of these decentralized applications that can be built on top of it. But what exactly is this shift? Like, why is this so important? What does this change, like from a fundamental perspective with Ethereum? Just talk me through this shift from ETH1 to ETH2.
So basically, what I see is the biggest game changer is the scalability, because nowadays people are paying a lot of money for fees on Ethereum network. And this, of course, creates a lot of hurdles for the applications, for the users that are using these applications. So, for example, if you would be paying several dollars for a transaction fee, then it makes it very difficult for the builders of the applications and for the users to actually use it for smaller transactions. So nowadays we see that a lot of people that are using DeFi products are willing to pay a lot of money for the transaction fees. They are willing to pay a few dollars, $5, $10 for one transaction. The mainstream users are not going to be willing to pay so much for one single transaction. What Ethereum 2 2.0 allows is that a lot of these transaction fees are going to be much lower over time, and it's going to allow much lower transaction fees. It's going to be more. There's going to be a more throughput, so more transactions are going to be uh, coming through the network. So it means that from a user point of view, it's going to be much cheaper to use the Ethereum applications, and there will be more use cases for which Ethereum can be used in the future. So users will not have to think about, oh, should I wait to pay $5 instead of $15 that I'm paying now. They will just do it because it will be such a small amount that they don't have to think about it. So it'll be in cents, not in dollars. And this allows a lot of new applications where before were not possible because people wouldn't be willing to pay several dollars for one transaction. And the transaction doesn't have to be even financial. It can be some other transactions or for applications that were probably not created yet. And there are so many applications that people didn't even thought about or dreamt about that can be built on Ethereum. So thanks to this new kind of thanks to this big change, there can be a lot of new applications built for a lot of new users, for mainstream users. It doesn't have to be just the crypto people or the DeFi people who are going to be using this, because now it will really allow developers or businesses to be using it on the back end of the applications. And their users don't need to even know that they are using Ethereum. They don't even need to understand. They don't need to know what Ethereum is, and they don't need to know that it exists. But the applications can be using Ethereum on the back end in the background of the applications. So these all things, they were possible before, but they were very difficult. And now, thanks to Ethereum 2.0, they are going to be much easier, much more scalable, and more accessible.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, coming from somebody that's built applications on Ethereum, it's like these transaction fees add up and they're significant and they do impact your decision making. And you deploy contracts at midnight on Saturday because less people are using it and the Gwei prices are lower and things like that. So it's a real issue, and I'm excited for that hindrance, that hurdle to kind of be, in theory, hopefully removed. So I'm curious with Baserank, I mean, you're aggregating all of these crypto analysts' opinions on different cryptocurrencies. What does the sentiment look like for something like ETH? What does and how are people valuing it? So I mean, perhaps sentiment and then fundamental valuation for both of it. But like, what does this look like for an asset like ETH?
So from my perspective, a lot of people are very, very positive about Ethereum, not only thanks to Ethereum 2.0, but also thanks to the fact that there are a lot of applications, a lot of DeFi projects are being built on top of Ethereum. There have been a lot of other platforms who were promising that there will be better than Ethereum, there will be a Ethereum killer or something like that. But the case is that most of the interesting use cases of blockchain are being built on Ethereum. So from my perspective, I'm always looking to what kind of businesses, projects, or applications are using the specific blockchain platform. And I'm trying to compare different projects with each other. So if I'm looking on Ethereum, I'm looking where are the other ones? Where is EOS? Where is Polkadot? Where is Cardano? And other projects that are trying to achieve something similar. And when I look at Ethereum, I see that they're miles ahead of other platforms. So what others are trying to achieve and trying to build, Ethereum is way ahead. And I'm not talking just about from technical perspective, but mostly from a community perspective. Because from my perspective, from the perspective of an investor, it's very important to look on the community, because uh, technical fundamentals are only one portion of the blockchain platform. There have to be people, there have to be developers, there have to be investors, there have to be journalists who want to write about these projects. So the whole community behind Ethereum is the strongest asset that Ethereum as a foundation and as a movement has. On the other side, all these other projects, they are trying to create something similar, something competitive, but so far, I think Ethereum is really miles ahead. So talking about the sentiment, I think is very positive about on Ethereum and the fundamental value of crypto assets. So my approach, as I mentioned, is try to compare the projects, try to compare projects along a specific segment. So, for example, blockchain platforms, or crypto asset tokens, or DeFi projects, and try to look for what are the key token value drivers. So, what are the value drivers that are gonna kind of help push the value of the token in the future? And for example, in the case of blockchain platforms, I'm always looking at the amount of projects that are being built on top of that platform, because the more projects are going to be built on top of the platform, the more projects are going to be using Ethereum, which will add value to Ether. So if there are more projects who are more used by more users, is going to create value for the underlying crypto assets, which in this case is Ether. So I'm always trying to look for what are the token value drivers, and these token value drivers are specific like factors, or they can be quantitative but also qualitative factors that I'm looking into, and I try to compare these factors between different projects in a specific segment. So, for example, I did a comparative analysis of crypto asset exchange tokens. I was comparing Binance token to Huobi token, Leo token, and many others. I think there were 18 tokens, and I was trying to compare, like, okay, which crypto asset is the best from this segment, because it's very difficult to create similar to like stock investing. It's almost impossible to create like one metric that will tell you which crypto asset is good. Meaning, for example, like PE ratio for stocks. It's very easy because it's a ratio that can show you how much am I paying for the earnings that the company is making. So, for example, in I think with Tesla, investors are paying 800 times more than what the company is making a year, which is insane. But it shows that people are willing to invest and buy the stock of Tesla, because they perceive that in the future it's going to be valued way more. It's going to be way more valuable. And this kind of brings us to crypto investing, because the same way Tesla is valued today as a stock, people don't look only on the PE ratio. They already disregard this. Like, if you would compare PE ratio of Tesla, Ford Motor, or other like automotive companies, Tesla has the worst PE ratio of them all. And looking at crypto assets, it's very similar, because investors are not just looking into the current situation. They're not trying to compare only the crypto assets, but they are looking what's going to be in the future. So me personally, I choose different methods. For some crypto assets, I'm trying to compare them, but for some, I'm trying to look into what's gonna be possible in the future. Where is this project heading to? So with a lot of crypto assets, it's very difficult to evaluate them as of today, because if you would try to evaluate crypto assets from a current perspective, most crypto assets have zero value. There is no value at all. But if you look in the future, they might have some value in the future. And that's what most investors are betting for. Most investors are not betting on the current value. So it's almost impossible to value crypto assets from a current perspective, but from a future expectation perspective. So a lot of these crypto investments are actually speculations, because you are speculating on the future value of something based on the limited information that you have today. So that's my kind of like take on fundamental analysis on speculation about crypto assets. And yeah, maybe you have
Yeah,
some another
no, I
question.
think I think that's a good point. So I mean, it's like tech or growth stocks. Like you're paying a premium for this future growth, and that's why they have these higher PE ratios. But for something like so I like thinking about these crypto assets from like a price to earnings, some sort of relative valuation, so you can kind of stack these things up next to each other. But for something like ETH, so you said a lot of the value comes from projects built on top of Ethereum. So this undoubtedly adds value to the community, to the Ethereum blockchain. But thinking about value drivers, as you said, for ETH, the actual
Hmm.
speculative token that's used to pay for gas floating around the ether, if you will. But I mean, what is driving this or this earnings for the second biggest currency, cryptocurrency like Ethereum?
Hmm. So Ethereum Foundation, who is the foundation behind Ethereum and Ether, doesn't have like any earnings report. They are not making any profits or anything. So the idea where the value comes from is, in the beginning, it was that Ether is going to be used for the transaction fees, and that's going to be the place where Ether will gain the value. But it used to be like this for many years. But when we look back, for example, for 2017, that was not the case where Ether actually got most of the value. The value in 2017 came from people using Ether to participate in ICOs. So suddenly Ether, because Ether was the only currency that could be used in many ICOs, or it was the preferred currency, cryptocurrency that could be used in ICOs. In many ICOs, they would accept also other crypto assets or cryptocurrencies, but Ether was the preferred crypto asset because it was very accessible. It was easy to use, and people could just send Ether and get back the ERC20 tokens. So suddenly, Ether became a transactional currency, and I'm not sure if Ethereum Foundation planned this, but there was a clear accrual of value for Ether, where people had to first buy Ether to participate in ICOs, and because there was a lot of trading happening on Ether, and Ether became a transactional currency where you first need to buy Ether and then buy the token. So suddenly there is a value for the token where people are using it for transactions, and this is like another value that has been added to the Ether. So people were buying Ether, and they were selling. There was more trading volume, and people were buying, holding, and this all added to the value. And when we look from today's perspective in 2020, a lot of Ether is actually locked in DeFi applications. So from transactional currency, which still Ether is for many projects or in many scenarios, and it is still being used for transaction fees, for gas fees. Now there are also like other value propositions. So for example, Ether is also used as a currency that is being locked in the DeFi applications. It is used as a reserve currency. So for example, in the MakerDAO protocol, Ether is being locked in the Maker to create DAI, the stablecoin, and it is essentially a reserve currency for some decentralized applications. So these are like other kind of like value drivers that influence the real value of Ether. But again, looking at it from the real from a perspective of an investor, this is just a tiny part of the price of Ether. The biggest part of the price, why Ether costs $600 today, is not because of these token value drivers. It's not because of these three things that I mentioned. The price is driven mostly by speculation. So it's driven mostly by people buying Ether because they expect the price will go up in the future. So even though I mentioned these token value drivers, and because in the case of Ether we can explain them, we can quantify them, we can measure them, they're still a very small portion of the price. So most people who are buying Ether are not buying it to use it for transaction fees as a transactional currency or as a reserve currency, but they're using it only as a means of speculation or investment.
That makes a lot of sense, but I'm curious, like, how do you quantify these numbers to actually get to an to get to an expected earnings sort of thing? Because
You,
all of these, I mean, these are massively hard to quantify factors and numbers. So, but if you're trying to come up with a PE, like, how does one think about that?
I don't know. To be honest, I don't think there is a way. I haven't seen any, so
Mm.
I think it's too complicated. And of
It's
course, I
it's
would be glad if someone would come up with that, but I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, I think this is the interesting thing about fundamental analysis when it comes to crypto, right? Like with something like a decentralized exchange, Like it's very easy to figure out the earnings or these lending platforms or whatever. I mean, it's there, so you can very easily come up with a PE. But for something like Ethereum or Bitcoin, it's different. And of course, you don't value gold on a price to earnings, so you use things like stock to flow or these other valuation metrics. So it's an interesting discussion always about these things because there is that future value that's hard to quantify that flows into it, obviously, and a big portion of it. Um, yeah, so I enjoy this. I'm curious. So you said ETH is miles ahead of its competitors, which I agree. Um, and looking at this, it's not necessarily the best tech. It's a number of different things, investor sentiment, all of these things. But just from a technical perspective, like who of these other smart contract platforms or Ethereum killers, like from a technical community growth factor, like where would you kind of place your bets?
From a technical perspective, it's very hard to say for me because I'm not really a technical person, so I cannot evaluate this. But looking from a community perspective, or looking from how many projects are being created in other communities, or if I see, for example, to which other platforms are current projects kind of migrating, then I see there is some traction in Polkadot community. There is some traction in the Solana community, and there's still going to be it's quite different from Ethereum, but Dfinity is also very interesting, and I'm trying to look more in depth, but so far it's too complicated for me to understand. But I think there is something interesting being created as well, so I will definitely do some more research on that project in the future. So probably these three projects I would be following more closely, but I really still think that they are still quite far from the community or from the network effects perspective. Even though they might be better in the tech, which I cannot evaluate. I cannot evaluate them from a technical perspective. I'm not a technical person, so I cannot evaluate them from a technical perspective. But from what I understand from the community perspective, from what projects are there being created, I think these are very interesting.
Okay, so that was Polkadot, which is dot, Solana, which is SOL, I think, and
I think
Definity,
so.
which has not technically launched yet officially, right?
Yes, they haven't launched the token yet. It's just a
Okay.
IOU token being traded.
And curious, okay, so for smart contract platforms overall, what is the bear case? Like what's the situation that these things just don't work out and they don't amount to anything?
Yeah, I think they might. It's a tough question because I hope they will, but it could. There are a lot of scenarios where they don't catch up. I mean, they don't just create something useful, or they might not come up with a killer app, or there are so many scenarios where it could be from a technical perspective where it just doesn't work as it's supposed to. It's not scalable enough, and people are just not used to using decentralized applications. I think the current one of the hurdles for decentralized apps is the user experience, because most of the decentralized applications are being used by people who are into crypto assets, who are into crypto. They really want to, they're believers in it, but they are not using it for solving their problems or just like to solve their current issues. So from the friends I have that are using decentralized apps, most of them are crypto believers. I don't have any friends that would be using crypto apps or decentralized apps just because it would solve their problem. So if they're not going to be apps that are going to be able to solve problems of ordinary people who don't care about crypto, it's going to be very difficult to create some adaptation that will kind of make a breakthrough and will kind of push us forward. So I think we like the crypto space and the blockchain space. We need new people that are coming into space. We need new applications that are being built, and otherwise it's very difficult to kind of push this forward. So there has to be a growth in the amount of users who are using these applications. So unless there is going to be more people using that, and coming to the space, it's going to be very difficult to kind of move forward. So of course, it's a problem that everyone knows about. It's something that people are always trying to figure out. They are saying this is going to be the next killer app for blockchain or for crypto. And I just think from my perspective, it just needs more time, because I think it's the same with the internet in 90s. It wasn't like in 5 years or something. It took way longer. There was a dot-com bubble, and after that, still many users were not using internet, and there was a dot-com bubble, and many people didn't have internet at home. They just heard about it, but they never used it. I think it's the same case. Many people heard about Bitcoin, but they never used it. So I think now 2021 will be the kind of decade of blockchain applications, but also of AI. So I think these two technologies kind of are going to be the most important for this decade.
This time it's different. 2021. It'll be great. Everybody will be using it. No, I mean, it's so yeah, I completely agree. It's like these things have to be solving a real bleeding neck issue and provide a solution for that, and do it in a way that's not so cumbersome and terrible. And we're still far way off. I mean, a lot of these DeFi tools are awesome from like a UI perspective, but like you gotta have crypto, which is kind of an arduous process to like play in this little ecosystem. I'd be curious, knowing what you know about all of these different products and things being built. Like everybody always talks about the killer app, which I don't necessarily agree with, but you know these applications, these decentralized applications that are so ripe for mass adoption that it's the world's just screaming for a less centralized, you know, dApp version of this. What would be your bet? What would that application look like? Who would it serve?
I think Bitcoin is the killer app of blockchain and crypto. I think Bitcoin is really the killer app, but not for the like first world countries, not like for US or Europe. We don't need Bitcoin in our normal lives, but for people like that are from countries like Venezuela or Zimbabwe, where there was a hyperinflation, I think it makes a lot of sense to be using Bitcoin as a store of value and as a transactional currency for purchases or for anything. So from my perspective, Bitcoin is really the killer app, but still it's very difficult for ordinary people to use it. So I really believe that the maybe the future of Bitcoin will be on Ethereum. So I really believe that people are going to be using Bitcoin as a wrapped token on Ethereum because they believe in Bitcoin as a store of value. But I really cannot see people using Lightning Network that soon, because I've used the app, I like it, but I really believe that Ethereum is, like, from a technological perspective, kind of going faster. It has a faster pace, so I think people are going to be using stable coins on Ethereum. They're going to be using Bitcoin on Ethereum as the store of value, as a transactional currency. And I think this is something that, thanks to cryptocurrencies, the idea of money is really being changed, because what we have been always taught, what we have been always taught at school in schools is that money has to be a store of value, has to be a medium of exchange, and a unit of account. But in crypto assets, you can separate all these three things. And as a user, you can choose which crypto asset you would like to use as a store of value. So for example, you believe in Bitcoin, so you use Bitcoin as a store of value. But you go in a shop and the shop uses something else as a unit of account. So you see the prices in different currency. And then the medium of exchange, thanks to decentralized exchanges, I can pay you with Bitcoin, but you can accept a DAI stablecoin or anything else, because thanks to decentralized exchanges and thanks to decentralized exchange protocols, we can exchange the value, and I don't need to even know what crypto assets you accept, because thanks to all these decentralized exchanges, we can exchange the value by I send you the money and you receive whatever you want, and I send you whatever I want, and it's being exchanged. So I think the concept of money is being changed, and for crypto, I think the killer app is money, and it started with Bitcoin, but of course now we will see like where does it go if Bitcoin is going to be on Ethereum. I believe so. Are going to be stable coins, so either Bitcoin or stable coins built on Ethereum, because for most ordinary people in countries where central banks cannot take good care of their national currencies, I think this is something that is really needed. I think in countries where they have a problem with inflation, I think this is going to be a really a killer app where when people are going to start using apps with stable coins with Bitcoin in it, it's going to be so easy to use, and they will not have to have to think about storing their receipt. There is going to be a way to figure it out in a nice way that we can just transact their money and they can trust the system. There has to be like a trustless way to do it. So I think this is going to be the killer app, because I think changing the way we see money is the key thing about crypto or about blockchain that can be solved thanks to blockchain and crypto and thanks to Ethereum. So I really think that we are looking for killer apps. We already see it, but it's going to change in the future. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what will be the next versions of the money killer app. But I definitely think it's going to be in the space.
Love it. Yeah, very much aligned with a lot of that. What I tell people a lot, I mean, living in a developed country, but there's two things that should very much scare the wealthy, and it's hyperinflation and government confiscation.
Mm-hmm.
And Bitcoin potentially protects you against both of these. I mean, a
Exactly.
brick of gold, you can only hide so much. Like it's completely untraceable and in a lot of different ways, but it's a big physical thing. So Bitcoin offers a very different option for that. I would challenge you probably a bit with the wrapped Bitcoin. So I've just used Lightning for the first time recently, and it's pretty sweet. I know there's not a lot of traction with it yet, but it works pretty darn well. And then so for my listeners, like wrapped Bitcoin basically in some way, whether trusted or completely trustless, somewhat trust minimized rather, you take your Bitcoin, you put it somewhere, and then you get a token that represents that Bitcoin on the Ethereum blockchain. So then it's secured by the Ethereum blockchain. So you have faster transactions. You can easily swap it for Ethereum tokens. And like what you said, which I loved, is like breaking up those aspects of money that always were combined as one. Um, so with wrapped Bitcoin, there's a few options out there, like WBTC or RenBTC or TBTC, probably some other ones that I'm not familiar of. What is your favorite wrapped Bitcoin offering right now, and why?
Actually, there is none. I don't have a favorite one. Like I don't have a favorite wrapped Bitcoin version. And coming back to the Lightning Network, I do like Lightning Network as well. Just to clarify, I've used it. I shown it to the people that did never experienced Bitcoin and they loved it. So I think it's a good way to kind of showcase people what Bitcoin is about. But of course, also explaining them that this is like the future of Bitcoin. Where I see the problem of Lightning Network is that it's very difficult currently to connect it to other assets. So if you would like to exchange Lightning Network Bitcoin for stablecoin for other token, I don't know of any easy way to exchange a Lightning Bitcoin network for a stablecoin, Ethereum, or other asset. So I think this is the current this is the problem of Lightning Bitcoin. I think from a technical perspective, it's great. It works. I like it. But you can own it's a closed system where you can transact Bitcoin between users, and it's still very good. But compared to where Ethereum's heading, I think Ethereum has kind of like a big advantage in this sense. So coming back to your question, I don't have a favorite wrapped Bitcoin protocol. I'm actually not using a wrapped Bitcoin, I have to admit. But I think it makes sense in the future if wrapped Bitcoin on, I mean, if they are going to be using Bitcoin as a store of value, then they can also use a wrapped Bitcoin on Ethereum. Because, for example, if they say, okay, I want to use Bitcoin as a store of value, but I would like to use it to pay for services or goods. Then they can use a wrapped Bitcoin version of it. And actually, stable coins are kind of also wrapped tokens or wrapped currencies, so to say, because it's a very similar concept. So it's the same way where we can tokenize some other assets and just put it on the Ethereum blockchain and then exchange it. So from my perspective, Ethereum is going to be the blockchain where the exchange of value is going to be happening. And that's why I'm such a big believer in Ethereum, because all of the exchange of the value is currently happening. If it's on chain, it's currently happening on Ethereum.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Being able to swap in and out of those tokens. I mean, you do it in a DEX now, and it's really tough to say this in the crypto world, but it's a very seamless experience, and it works really nicely. So I would agree with that. So I'm curious with so in this future world that people are swapping in and out of stable coins and Bitcoin and other wrapped assets, like, you know, you could have a like the Pax gold coin, for instance, and hold your gold if you like the boomer version of Bitcoin. Um, a major risk to this and mass adoption would be central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. So how do you see those playing into this new world that we're using all of these different tokens? You see it as a massive risk. Talk to me a little bit about CBDCs.
I don't think it's a threat. I think if it comes, then people are going to learn about it. They're going to learn about digital assets. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to be working in the case of digital central bank. I see it as an opportunity, the same way I saw Libra, even though they are both centralized. I think once people learn about it and they are going to use it, and crypto assets are going to be always an alternative. So if they're not going to like something about the centralized digital assets, they are going to jump into the crypto space. They're going to jump into the decentralized space. And from my perspective, crypto assets has been always an alternative space. So I don't see it as like the mainstream thing where everyone will be using crypto assets in the future. I don't think that's going to be the case, because not everyone wants to be using decentralized and not decentralized money. Not everyone needs the freedom. A lot of people actually are more happy with holding their money in a bank, and for that, they are going to be centralized crypto assets or centralized digital assets. And so I don't see it as a threat. I see it more as kind of like the introduction for many people, because they are going to trust these systems more. They're going to be introduced to the concept. They're going to understand that, oh, there is an alternatives to it, so they can try to learn more about Bitcoin. So I think it's just going to bring more people to the space. And of course, they are going to try to regulate crypto assets. They're going to try to regulate crypto and Ethereum, and this might cause some slowdowns or some hurdles. But the good thing about crypto assets is that they are borderless. So if one country imposes some regulations, people can always take their business somewhere else. So there's going to be a competition between countries. If, for example, a specific country is going to regulate crypto assets, and people have always the freedom to take their business and start it somewhere else. And so, from my perspective, if there are countries who are thinking about regulating crypto assets, blockchain, or things like that, they should be really careful, because they should think about what are the benefits of regulating it and what are the risks of regulating them. Because from my perspective, I'm mostly against regulations. So I would be really careful about regulating things in their early stage, because from my perspective, countries that are going to be regulating are going to be lacking behind in the future. And I think it's going to be the same way as in the beginning of automotive era. In UK, there was this stupid law, where there had to be a person with a red flag that was walking in front of a car and just warning everyone there is a car coming. And because of the stupid law, there were not so many cars being sold in UK when they started. Whereas in Germany, there was no such a stupid regulation. and the automotive industry really boomed. And I think it's the same with crypto assets and with blockchain. If governments try to regulate it in a very early stage, it's going to cause more problems and more harm than good. So I think it's important to wait and see and just support it and not regulate it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So that's a lot about Ethereum. And I don't know if you've read Camilo Russo's The Infinite Machine, but this is a resource. I mean, she's basically provided a timeline of how Ethereum started and was developed and all of these things. It's a really, really good book. So I'll link that in the show notes for sure. But where do you normally send people if they want to find out more about Ethereum, Ethereum 2, the potential of this?
That's hard to say. Like there is a lot of resources. There is not just I don't think that there's like a central resource for Ethereum. There are a lot of good YouTube videos. I would say for Bitcoin and also for Ethereum, I would always recommend Andreas Antonopoulos, who can explain a lot of concepts really well. So I think people should first understand Bitcoin, then jump onto Ethereum, because I think it's kind of like a prerequisite for people to understand Ethereum. They should first understand Bitcoin because Bitcoin is like the first successful cryptocurrency, and people should first understand Bitcoin. And then I think Andres explains a lot about Ethereum as well. He's written a book about it, and I think he explains a lot of complicated concepts in a very simple way. So if I would point to just one person, I would definitely point to him.
Yeah, I echo that. He does a great job and has tons and tons of resources on YouTube. So I'm curious. I mean, ETH2, Ethereum, these smart contract platforms are very, very interesting. And then there's sub niches underneath them, like within the ETH ecosystem. There's so many sub niches. What kind of, well, either in one of those sub niches or elsewhere? Like, what else about the crypto world right now? What's your most bullish sector, if you will, for 2021?
So definitely DeFi. Most bullish on DeFi because it's from a perspective of usability or perspective of how many people are actually using the decentralized applications. Most of the traction is happening in the DeFi space, in the decentralized finance space. So when you look at other decentralized applications, it's very difficult to find any traction. There are not so many users. There is not so many things happening, and this is also based. I mean, due to the fact that a lot of crypto believers, a lot of crypto investors, they are using decentralized finance to kind of solve their own problems. For example, like lending crypto and getting some stable coins, or using it to farm tokens. So I think currently is the hottest thing in the crypto space because people who were into crypto in 2017 now they can use it for other purposes. But I think that's the current like the hottest topic. But I don't see that many users who wouldn't be using crypto before now using decentralized finance. And I think there's one. I would say like from my perspective, Uniswap is one of the applications that actually is, from my perspective, way easier to use is a decentralized exchange, and I think Uniswap is way easier to use than centralized exchanges because it really looks like it's on a few clicks. So once people learn how to use MetaMask, then they can really easily use Uniswap. And for a lot of ordinary people, using crypto exchanges is still very complicated. Like the idea of order books or putting a putting an order in a exchange is very complicated. But on Uniswap, it's very simple. It's so easy. Like it's I think Uniswap has the best UI in the crypto space because it's like it follows the concept of it's unique only when you cannot take anything else away. So they really kept it that simple that you cannot take anything away. So it's very easy to use for ordinary people.
Yeah, it's very true. I'd be curious on the topic of ordinary people. Like, what do you see as the biggest hurdle to being a successful crypto investor?
So I think for most people, It's okay. There are two kind of factors. There are some external factors and internal factors. And looking from the internal perspective, I think a lot of people have a problem with patience. I think a lot of people kind of try to jump into the space, and they expect they're going to be overnight millionaires, if I exaggerate it. But also looking around, people that I know personally who are not into crypto, like in a long-term perspective, they usually come around when there are new all-time highs. And so I would say this is the biggest hurdle. People are not patient enough. They really expect they're going to make money easily, they're going to make money fast, and they really follow their emotions. So they try to buy when there is a FOMO, when they see, oh, the prices are going up. So the internal factors are lack of patience and emotions, where they're trying to buy when the price starts. I mean, when it's already going up. So I think these are the most influencing factors for many people. And on the other hand, when I'm looking at the external factors, I think there is a lot of noise in the crypto space. I think that there are a lot of fake influencers, fake crypto gurus, or like paid YouTubers who get paid to promote shitcoins and projects that have no way of ever succeeding. And I really think it's a pity that there is a lot of noise that is directing, especially the newcomers, to the wrong place. So trying to promote them projects that don't have the incentive of building something interesting. So I think there's a lot of noise, and especially for newcomers, it's very difficult to know who is the expert and who is just a fake guru. So it's actually one of the problems that we are trying to solve as Baserank. Is we try to aggregate the opinions or the ratings and reviews and research from the reliable sources. So we don't look at the fakers or people who we know they get paid just to promote a coin, because it's very easy for us to see that there is no real research backing their independent review. So it's there is a lot of noise, especially on YouTube. A lot of these crypto YouTubers are not actually they're not in the business of finding the good projects to invest in. They are in the business of influencing. They are influencer. They get paid for views. They get paid for promoting things. So they are not analysts or anything like that. So it's very difficult for a normal person to see this. They always claim that they are not financial advisors, but reverse psychology, like people think that they actually are, but actually they're not. So I'm not financial advisor either. Yeah, I think there's a lot of noise in the crypto space that it's very difficult to filter out. And if you're a new person, then a lot of people are really like get stuck there, and they go the wrong direction, and they really bet on very bad projects that have no way of succeeding.
Oh yeah. Well, I'll definitely link base rank. I mean, that's solving a real problem in the space, right? But obviously it's gonna be a difficult problem to solve because those paid shills always are willing to pay for their shill, and you'll have this business decision, right, as it goes along. So definitely, this is why your project interests me, right? I'm following it closely. So there's a lot of opinions and ideas about where crypto is going. I'd be curious. I mean, you're aggregating all of these opinions and analysis. What what is the contrarian opinion of where crypto is going that you hold, or unpopular opinion that you hold, and why?
Yeah, I mentioned one opinion. I think that crypto is going to be used by everyone. I think in some way it's going to be used on the back end, so people are not going to know that it's going to be used in certain applications, and it's still not going to be used by everyone. I think it's not going to be in the near future where everyone is using crypto. So it's going to take way more time than people anticipate. And I would say also another thing is that I see a lot of crypto businesses that do not have aligned interests with the investors. So I don't want to be giving like any names, but I feel as a lot of the crypto exchanges, they are they're not in the business of giving or helping investors to make money. So if you are retail investors, you go to an exchange. Don't think that the exchange has listed only the good things, even though the exchange is popular, it's very famous. They're not in the business of offering you the best tokens to invest in. They are in the business of giving you access to these tokens. So if there is a token, if there's a crypto asset that people want to trade, if there is a business potential for them, because they are in the business of trading tokens, they are giving in the business of giving an opportunity to people to trade these tokens, but they do not do research on whether this project is going to be successful in the future. They do research on whether people are willing to trade it and whether they're going to be able to collect money from trading fees. So a lot of people do not realize this, but from my perspective, a lot of exchanges do not have aligned incentives with the investors. So it's something that people are not talking about that much. And also, other thing is that a lot of crypto investors, I'm talking now about investment funds, also do not have aligned interests with the retail investors, because there is a common problem that people that have been in the crypto space for a long time, they know this, but of course, again, people who are coming new, they are not aware of this, but a lot of institutional investors, a lot of crypto funds, there's a lot of shady things going on when there are these token deals, when they're buying tokens at a hugely discounted price. So I think it's something that people are not talking about that much. I feel like a lot of these investment funds, they are just following other funds. So there are a lot of follower funds. So there are a lot of funds who are just asking who else is investing. And if there is not a famous investors, they just gonna go in. They never mention it. They just follow it. So there are a lot of investment funds who are just following. There are a lot of investment funds who are the ones who are being followed. So these are probably the unpopular opinions that I have. I could be always wrong, but that's the way I see it. I would like to be proven wrong, but I think these are the things that we are also trying to improve in the investment space, because we are really trying to kind of align the interests of investors with the analysts, because we believe that as a community we can really achieve bigger things than if we are just taking care of each other needs. And we really believe that if we help other retail investors find the best projects in the crypto space, the whole crypto space can move much faster forward than if we would be just trying to pump and dump any tokens or try to shill shit coins or try to promote scammy projects, because there are a lot of people who are doing that. It doesn't help anyone, it just helps them. So we are trying to really like expose these people and try to help the crypto community, especially the investment community, to kind of have a resource where they can find reliable information, because there is, from my perspective, is a really lack of that.
Right. Nice. Well, talk to me shortly about roadmap. What excites you most about Baserank? What's coming up?
So currently we are mostly working on partnerships with other crypto informational websites and with selected exchanges. So as I talked about exchanges, there are few exchanges who actually do care about the 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 success of their users. So these exchanges are actually interested in showing them the fundamental value of crypto assets or showing them ratings that we offer. So we are currently working on distributing the Baserank rating. The core thing that we offer as Baserank is a Baserank rating TM, which is an easy to understand crypto asset rating. So we are distributing this in other places because we believe that the rating should be accessible for everyone and in many places, not only on Baserank. So we are talking with crypto asset exchanges, with crypto informational websites that are going to be integrating these ratings on their platforms. So this is something that I'm really positive about. There is a lot of positive feedback on this. People are really They really like it, and also we are working on an AI tool, which I cannot talk more in details, but we're basically going to be using machine learning to kind of learn more about opinions of a lot of smart people in the crypto space without actually asking them the question. So it's going to be more complicated. There's a lot of data analytics behind it. It's completely different from what anyone is doing. I know it sounds very familiar to most people, but it's way different than what everyone has heard about because it's a completely different concept. So I'm very positive about this. We are working on this for 3 months now, and we found some very interesting results. How to find very good projects early on. So it seems very promising.
Nice. Exciting indeed. Well, Ondrej, we really appreciate you having you coming on today and talking about all these things. There's a lot going on, and it's always nice to kind of level set and talk about these things. But yeah, where can my listeners find a little bit more about you or Baserank? Where do you want to send them?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Ben, for inviting me. I think the best place to find all the information is on our website, baserank.io. So all the listeners can find information about what we do, what we stand behind. I think they should also check our Medium articles if they want to go more in depth, if they're going to dig deeper into what kind of how it all started, what is our history, so they can kind of read some articles. We have been in this space for almost 4 years now, and yeah, if they're interested to kind of talk to me, they can just shoot me an email. It's ondrej@baserank.io. So my email is open. I always like to listen to feedback. So if someone has some ideas, so how to improve what we are doing, how to help, I'm always willing to listen and respond.
Awesome. Ondrej, really appreciate it, man. Have a great day.
Thanks a lot, Ben. It was really pleasure to be invited. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.
You too. There you go. First off, thank you very much for listening all the way through. I hope you got a lot of value out of that conversation. As always, you can find show notes, links, and more at altassetallocation.com. Please share this with anyone you think might be interested and derive any value from this conversation. And as always, you can reach out to me for any feedback or questions. Please give the video a like, or even better, subscribe on YouTube or your podcast player of choice. This really helps others find the podcast or the video as well. Thanks a lot. Hope everybody has a fantastic day and stay safe out there and invest wisely. Cheers.